The Giant's Tooth. One rainy day, Rosie and Jim were sailing along on the old rag doll when they found a great big tooth stuck fast in the ground. "Look," said Rosie, "a great big tooth." "Let's pull it up," said Jim. Jim pulled and Rosie pulled, but they could not pull it up. "I'll help," said a rabbit. Jim pulled and Rosie pulled and the rabbit pulled, but they could not pull it up. "Ah, I have no teeth," said a frog, "but I'll help." Jim pulled and Rosie pulled and the rabbit pulled and the frog pulled, and the tooth came plop out of the ground. A big voice said, "Have you found my tooth?" It was a great big giant. Yes," said Jim and Rosie and the rabbit and the frog. "We have." "Thank you," said the great big giant. "I've been looking for it everywhere." "You're welcome," said Jim and Rosie and the rabbit and the frog. And the giant plopped the tooth back into his mouth and went home for his dinner. Rosie and Jim go to school. Rosie was reading a story to Jim. "That's magic," said Jim. "What?" said Rosie. "Making all those squiggly-wiggly things into a story," said Jim. "Oh, you can do it," said Rosie. "Where?" said Jim. "Guess," said Rosie. "A wizard's castle," said Jim. A wizard waved his wand, and Rosie and Jim were in his magic castle. "Somewhere easier to find," said Rosie. Said Jim. "What about a shop full of books?" Rosie and Jim went to a bookshop. "Nice pictures," said Jim, "but I still don't know how you make these squiggles talk." "It's called reading," said Rosie. "Where else can we go?" said Jim. "Guess," said Rosie. "I give in," said Jim. "A school," said Rosie. "A school? What's that?" said Jim. "I'll show you," said Rosie. Rosie took Jim to a school. It was a lovely place, full of toys and books and pictures. A teacher was showing the children how to read. "Is this it?" said Jim. "Yes," said Rosie. "Great," said Jim. "Let's begin." The wrong kind of sheepdog. Rosie and Jim met a sheepdog. "Hello," they said. "Who are you?" "I'm a sheepdog," said the dog. "Sheepdogs are not supposed to look like sheep," said Rosie. "They just round sheep up," said Jim. "I'm a different kind," said the dog. "I round rag dolls up." "We don't want to be rounded up, Noodle," said Rosie. "You don't get to choose," said the dog, and he began rounding up Rosie and Jim. He rounded them up a hill and through a stream. He rounded them through some prickly bushes and some sticky mud. "Stop!" shouted Rosie. "Nearly finished," said the dog. Through a hedge and over a stile, and there was the rag doll. "That's it," said the dog. "That's what, noggin?" said Rosie. "Finished," said the dog. "Rounding up always finishes at home, especially with rag dolls." "What about ducks?" said Jim. But the dog had gone. "Looking for something else to round up, I suppose," said Jim. "He's got it all wrong," said Rosie. Elephant shoes. Rosie and Jim were going for a walk. "Ouch," said Jim. "What's wrong?" said Rosie. "My foot hurts," said Jim. "You must have a stone in your shoe," said Rosie. "It feels like a mountain," said Jim, "or an elephant." "Let's see," said Rosie. "It is an elephant," said Jim. "What are you doing in my shoe?" "I didn't know it was your shoe," said the elephant. "It's a very small elephant," said Rosie. "It's growing bigger," said Jim. "We'll take it for a walk," said Rosie. "But not inside my shoe," said Jim. The elephant walked along with Rosie and Jim. The elephant soon said, "Ouch!" "What's wrong?" said Rosie. "My foot hurts," said the elephant. "Well," said Rosie, "you can't have a stone in your shoe. Elephants don't wear shoes." "That's not fair," said the elephant. "I want some shoes." "It's the stones on the path," said Jim. "We'll take her to the shoe shop," said Rosie. At the shoe shop, Rosie and Jim bought a pair of elephant shoes. I want to wear them, said Jim. You'll have to take turns, said Rosie. So they did. The Furniture Tree. Rosie and Jim were going along on the good boat Ragdoll when they came to a forest. Giant cauliflowers, said Jim. Oh, noggin, said Rosie. They're not cauliflowers, they're trees. Let's go and see, said Jim. They went for a walk in the forest. They met a man with an axe. He was chopping a tree down. Stop, shouted Jim, you'll hurt it. Never fear, said the man. It'll grow again. Look, I'm leaving the roots. I take good care of my trees. That's right, noggin, said Rosie. Would you like to see the furniture tree, said the man. Furniture, said Rosie. That's tables and chairs and beds, said the man. There it is. Rosie and Jim climbed into the furniture tree. Rosie tried to go to sleep on a branch. Jim sat on a bough. Noodle, said Rosie, I'd never sleep here. But people have to make it into furniture, said the man. The tree makes the wood. So that's where wood comes from, said Jim, looking at his pencil. Well, I never, said Rosie. Magical music. One windy day, Rosie and Jim went into the town. Look, said Rosie. There was a shop window full of teddies and rag dolls. Let's go and say hello, said Jim. They went into the shop. Hello, said Rosie to a teddy. The teddy said nothing. Hello, said Jim to a rag doll. The rag doll said nothing. They're not coming to life, said Rosie. Listen, said Jim. Music, said Rosie. It makes your feet dance, said Jim. They danced all round the shop. Faster and faster they went. The teddy winked. The rag doll smiled. Let's dance, said the teddy. It's a pleasure, said the rag doll. They joined in with Rosie and Jim. At last they were all out of breath. They sat down to rest. The music stopped. It must have been magic music, said Rosie. It always is, said Jim. Water. Rosie and Jim were going along on the good boat Ragdoll when Rosie said, I'm thirsty. Have a drink of water, said Jim. Rosie tried the tap, but nothing came out of it. The tap's gone to sleep, said Rosie. Let's wish, said Jim. Let's wish for the water wizard to send us some water. Lots of water, said Rosie. So they went out on the deck of their boat and wished. Water wizard in the sky, send some water, please do try. There was a whoosh, and water came pouring out of the sky. Too much, shouted Rosie. We're soaked, wailed Jim. And still thirsty, said Rosie. What a noggin. They came to a water pipe. Fill her up, said Rosie. That's better, said Jim. But it all comes out of the sky, said Rosie. Then they washed their clothes in water, and they washed themselves in water, and they had a good drink of water. It's great stuff, said Jim, water. But not all at once, said Rosie. Well, that's the last of my stories about Rosie and Jim, just for now. So I'll be on my way again now to look for some new stories. Goodbye.